afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to present Georgian e-government reforms, which took part in the last decade. This is some country overview information for you to see, and I will go directly, considering the shortage of time, regarding our general principles, how we started and how we went. Back in 2004, we had nothing. Georgia had a reputation of almost a failed state with high corruption, with unstable political system, very unmotivated employees, government employees, and with the question marks on the future of its development. But when new political force came into force, there was a principle that let's start from the scratch and let's try what we can achieve with the use of ICT. So the issue was that we needed to transform Georgian public administration. And we have to do with the digitalization process because there were absolutely no registries. Everything was on paper. There was no concept or the vision on e-government development. Poor legislation, tax and labor system absolutely failed, and budget and public and law enforcement was really at stake. And then we found out that information technologies and ICT in general became a core enabling factor to achieve efficiency of government agencies because it just really saved time, it was cost effective, availability of resources became more and more visible, as well as transparency and accountability of the government was really a big result with the use of information technologies in every government and public administration reforms. We tried to enlist some projects where we had considerable achievements. These are the projects starting from the Ministry of Healthcare, Ministry of Education, tax and customs systems, as well as different fields of the Ministry of Justice and Interior. With the sake of time, I want to go just deep and just enumerate them in this order. Georgian government gateway, like the X-Road, was the basic cornerstone of data exchange between government agencies in Georgia. This concept is developed by the Data Exchange Agency staff together with the help of the Microsoft and HP experts. And this is the layer which helps us to exchange data and information between major agencies and registries of Georgia. Starting from 2004, Georgian government decided to have the orientation from the citizen-centric to organization-centric to the citizen-centric approach, which means that in many cases, Georgian citizens doesn't know who is the provider of the service or information because all services are really targeted to the exact citizen. And this is in every sector. This is education, healthcare, financial sector, or so on. Just for illustration, this is MyGovG citizen portal, which is based on this data exchange infrastructure. And citizens are registered here with the EID card and the alternative is username and password. And they are many services, hundreds of services are available through this portal. Application to government agencies with appeals, with the freedom of information request, with every kind of application is possible through this process, as well as this portal is dedicated not only for citizens, but also for business representatives, because, for instance, a person can register a business through this portal just in several minutes. Just to show that Georgian reforms have been considerably remarked by international organizations and international institutions. During many years, Georgia's business and property registration was in top positions by World Bank doing business surveys, and even today you see what marks we have in that direction. Georgian procurement system. This was the risk of high corruption for many years because everything was on paper. There were high risks of corruption and bribery between the procurement agency and the bidder companies. But nowadays, everything, absolutely everything is online. Every person can go to the portal and see what procurement bid is open, who is bidding, what is the price, and what are the requirements for the selection of the winner. And the Georgian procurement system has been awarded by many international organizations like UN, OECD, as a very effective one. Revenue service, definitely Ministry of Finance services were the first e-services in Georgia, and 99% of Georgian taxpayers, small SMEs as well as large companies, are filing tax returns electronically. And you see what, starting from the case management system, appeal system, e-invoice, e-filing is already utilized for more than 5 years in Georgia. Customs clearance zone, another our proud. This means that any good in Georgia, imported or exported, are going through very simple risk-based customs clearance procedures. We have different corridors, and if based on certain risk management algorithms, and when, for instance, several goods are coming to Georgia, they can go through the green corridor without any physical inspection, and this is a really very favorable system for investors. UN e-government survey of 2014 shows how considerable achievements we've done in terms of e-government and e-participation, when from 74th position we jumped to the 56th, and hopefully this year we will have even better achievements. And relations of how we've done those reforms in terms of money. This picture shows that really with very, very small contributions, Georgian government achieved big results in ICT and e-government development. Georgian police, transparent buildings with transparent procedures and transparent business processes, and with the help of ICT and criminal case management system, everyone is subject to the same procedures and same deadlines and same rule of law. Customs clearance zones, again, very nice buildings with nice staff and the service-oriented professionals. Community centers, although we have very nice and comfortable justice houses, we also in many Georgian villages are having community centers together with the local municipalities. Ministry of Justice is providing more than 200 services to the local employees who don't need to go from their rural areas to the cities and regional centers in order to get notary services, to register a land, or have some kind of licenses and permissions which are needed for the local affairs. And of course, Public Service Hall, our pride, and which has been also recognized by many institutions and international donors. We are with the single concept, single window concept. Citizens are getting very fast, innovative, and effective e-services. This was all. I tried to be very short. Thank you for your time, and I'm waiting for your questions.
Thank you, Nata. Any questions, comments? I think the transformation what Georgia has made during the last 12 years is really rapid. My question is that you changed, you built up those marvelous service halls. But sometimes it looks to me that people don't want to move to the next step because the service halls are so great. I think it's the same issue as mentioned in Azerbaijan. People don't want to leave them. So they don't want to go online because service hall is such a fancy place. So how you motivate people to go online as a next step? So you can close down the service halls at the end of the day.
Maybe it's really a question to be asked in Georgian reality, because really we are not as IT skilled as, for instance, Estonians, maybe in some instances, and people want to go and look at the face of the government service offer and just chat and have some kind of communication. But at the same time, when for instance, in rural areas, in mountainous parts of Georgia, then there is internet access, there are computers, and for them, going to the some kind of city regional centers is a problem. Then application to the central government is really very good. With the MyGovG portal, we sometimes get information from the Svanetia, very mountainous part of Georgia, about some general information from this centric government, which can't be done there at the local level. At the same time, we see that still, although having this kind of very fancy and nice offices, the future is digital. And me as a government employee, I'm very busy for going and just having my 1 hour break being outside of my office, and it's more convenient for me. So I think that students and rural areas are more keen for e-services than, for instance, in Tbilisi.
Thank you. Yes, please.
I have a question related with management of ICT in Georgia. So as I understand, let's say your agency under Ministry of Justice.
Yes.
So would you present the challenges, because political will within the ministry doesn't mean that it applies to all country. For example, in our country, the management of ICT is under control of Prime Minister office, which brings more, let's say, political tool and political decision making much easier than, let's say, under the ministry. I mean, just talk about these challenges being under ministry and applying, let's say, your rules and policies for other agencies.
Thank you for this question. For e-government, really political will means a lot, and maybe many times more than the skilled IT personnel or skilled vision. In Georgian reality, we found out that e-government itself is not the maybe ambition of the country, but transforming public administration is the key. How to make transparent, effective, and efficient e-services. And while Ministry of Justice was the leader institution in terms of public administration reforms in Georgia for many, many years, very objectively, e-government and institution responsible for e-government and information security became the part of the Ministry of Justice. I should say that with the enforcement of the laws, enforcement of policies and standards, which DEA as the e-government agency is imposing on other organizations, we don't see big obstacles, because we have the collaborative government, also we have the coalition government, which has different political parties there. Still cooperation and communication is possible, and it's enforced. So we have drafted the laws are enacted by the parliament, and we are enforcing those laws with the cooperation efforts with other agencies. Just a few words about DEA, Data Exchange Agency. We are responsible for legal policy, strategy, and technical parts of e-government. So government and national service within our authority, and with the help of the Prime Minister's office, where we have one division, one department for e-government development, we are coordinating this process with all the other agencies.
Thank you. Yes, please. Can we have a mic here?
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have a question regarding, you mentioned with something like, with such a small contribution, you got such a result. Could you please elaborate on that first? Then, how did you deal with the legislation? Because I think that this is the most, I have already asked some people here about the legislation challenge. How did you manage? Did you go in parallel, or probably which instruments did you use in order to make it a little bit easier? And third question is more to the audience, to the representatives of other countries, especially Armenia and you. When do you have electricity shortage? What do you do with that, with the whole e-government system? Thank you. And with the e-healthcare also.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the interesting questions. As a lawyer, I will start from the legal question. The issue is that with the help of our many very good experts from Austria, Germany, Estonia, and Italy, with whom we had previous twinning projects and the new twinning project, we started examination and assessment of all our legal frameworks. And the principle was like that. We are not having or drafting parallel legislation for or some ICT, but we are making changes and amendments in the existing legislation which will enable e-transactions, e-money flow, and e-solutions in general. So I should say that nowadays we have really very compatible and very compatible to EU standards Georgian legal systems, which are really enabling ICT solutions. We can just more discuss about what laws we have implemented, what regulations during the break, but shortly to say that we don't have one legal act on ICT or e-government, but we have sectoral legislation which enable e-transactions and e-services. In terms of the shortage of money, really Georgia is not a rich country and we have to be very efficient. The efficiency result or recipe was that sometimes we have, for instance, agencies like us are helping other government agencies to implement the project. So this does not mean that all ministries have their software developers there or their ICT staff, but we as the dedicated government agency are helping the others to implement those solutions. So many projects have been done inside and not outsourced, but with outsourcing we had international donors and international experts who were just leading us through the proper directions. Regarding the electricity, I am really proud that in comparing with my childhood when we really had candles, nowadays starting from the 2000 we have no these problems anymore, and I can say that we don't have the problems of providing e-services because of the shortage of electricity. Maybe one issue is that accessibility of internet in the rural areas is still a struggle, and we are still going in that direction that everyone has access to internet in the rural areas, but no issue with electricity anymore.
Yeah, and there should be a spare plan always. Yeah, yeah. Can we have a mic for last question for Georgia?
Since question was addressed also to Armenia on electricity shortage. Currently Armenia has no electricity shortage. We are even exporting some of this. Definitely electricity shortage is an issue for any country, and blackouts happen in any country, even in New York City it may happen. It's crisis management that you should use. I mean, you should have, let's say, crisis management rules. For critical systems like e-health, I mentioned that most of the data we are considering to keep on Amazon or let's say clouds like this outside of country. It's non-personal data, and which is a backup for your, let's say, system, really. And you need less resources for personal data keeping country.
Okay.
And now question.
Yeah,
No question.
thank you.
Thank you. I'm Shushan Doidoyan, head of Personal Data Protection Agency of Armenia. My question is related to electronic access to court documents. Are court documents published online? If yes, then how you ensure protection of data of citizens of Georgia?
Okay. So OGP and Open Government Partnership is the key pillar which goes hand in hand with the e-government and good government strategies of Georgia. And this means that not only government, executive branch of government is implementing e-government solutions, but also the legislative and the court judiciary as well. Judicial decisions based on the Supreme Court of Georgia has been published for many, many years already. The third and second appellate court decisions are not still still online, published online, but Supreme Court decisions are there, and all the personal data is encrypted. So I can see really information about containing the personal data in the court decisions. These are just encrypted because we have the personal data authority in Georgia who has the powers under the law to even punish and penalize the institutions who are not following the principles of the personal data protection.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you very
you.
much, Nata. Keep on with speed. And